Okay, we're at the halfway point, everyone.
Number 5, huh?
Number
Yep,
five,
number 5.
Brian.
All right, so I've got Kevin J. Anderson here at number 5 for me. And he would have been higher, except for I have not read most of the Young Jedi Knights series because I have not yet gotten my hands on most of that series. And I know that's a lot of what he did, but he did do, obviously, the Jedi Academy trilogy, which is a fan favorite, and it ought to be on a lot of people's favorites book lists because it is a very good trilogy. And I think we've already mentioned him during this conversation, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
I had him at number 8.
I'm sorry, I'm tired. Did I miss? Are we at 1 again? Did we go to number 1 again? I can't recall. Well, maybe after reading Young Jedi Knights, you'll see why. I currently am on the Diversity Alliance story arc. And Jeremy, guess what? Right now, like I haven't finished it all yet because I still got one. I'm almost done with Jedi Bounty. About to read Emperor's Plague, hopefully over Memorial Day weekend. But I think it may be better than the Shadow Academy, which was always.
I think it's better.
And
I think it's a lot better.
And when he makes, I love continuity, right? Well, he makes continuity, but he makes it make sense. He takes all the Bantam adventures and says, if this happened, then this. I mean, he was doing what Del Rey did with New Jedi Order before Del Rey had the rights, and he was.
I always appreciate that.
And I was like, and see, I didn't remember all that. I didn't remember there were so many connections, not just reference. Not remember when Thrawn attacked. It wasn't anything like that.
No.
But there's some really deep references. And I was like, in fact, some of it's so good. I've totally forgotten about a storyline. I thought it was in New Jedi Order, but it's in Young Jedi Knights.
Interesting.
Raynor.
The only thing I have.
All that was Young Jedi. New Jedi Order for some reason.
The one thing I had issue with Diversity was during what was that? Anyway,
Alexa.
Look, she just wanted in a conversation.
Blathering some.
My thing with Diversity Alliance, and we're gonna get into is Boba Fett's character's a little wonky, but didn't they retcon it so it's his daughter or granddaughter?
Or daughter. Or did they? Did he? It's so weird because I'm almost positive he meant that to be Boba Fett. When was the last time you read the Diversity Alliance?
A while ago.
Nola says, "Are you sure you're Fett? You don't seem like Fett to me." She went, "You could be a girl underneath there." Says that. Says, wasn't Leia disguised as Boss? How do I know you're not a girl? And she's doubting that it's Fett and thinking it's the girl. He's like, "It's me, I promise. But I'm not taking off my helmet for no one, not even you." So, yeah, I think at the time he thought it had to be Fett. But again,
I don't think it
is. They set it up to where it could easily have been his daughter the whole time. And I think they did retcon it for that. But there's one other thing. I can't remember what I just read, but it's like, did he do that on purpose? Or was that just a happy coincidence that he was able to tie it together, that people are later on able to tie it together?
I'll tell you what. I'll take Boba Fett in the Diversity Alliance over. I'm reading KW Jeter's Bounty Hunter Wars. Terrible. But I literally came up with the conclusion Boba Fett shouldn't be the main character of a novel.
So there you go. What's better, KD Jeter's Bounty Hunter Wars or Planet Twilight?
I'd take Planet Twilight over. Well,
there
no,
you go.
I don't
know.
I don't know
because there's 9 more. All right.
I haven't finished Hard Merchandise yet, so I'll have to let you know.
Oh my goodness. That's not going to save the series if you're hoping.
No, nothing happens. It's
a
trilogy where nothing happens.
All right. So Dylan, what's your number 1? I think that's where we're at right now, right?
No. So my number 5 is one I guarantee none of you have on your list, but you should. It's one that I didn't even remember until this morning, and he not only knocked off Michael P. Q. McDowell from my list entirely, but he jumped up to number 5. Genndy Tartakovsky.
That's a good choice.
That is a good choice. I didn't think of that.
And it's so different, right? Because like like television is different, right? It's very much like comics where it's a visual medium. But I really think, especially with the Clone Wars microseries, it feels like a comic because there's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of storytelling that's happening through the dialogue. The storytelling is all through the action and actions of the characters. It's like the epitome of like show don't tell storytelling
Mhm.
in that way, and it's so great at that. It's the
Well,
in
I
volume
remember how invested I was watching those shows. It was
Yeah,
just
so
great.
do I.
in volume 2, like when Anakin's seeing the vision of the cave paintings on the wall, that's essentially like there's no dialogue to that, but you understand exactly what is what's happening, exactly what it's trying to tell you, and exactly what it's foreshadowing and how it relates to Anakin. All
It's
that is
so-
done with just moving images.
It's so nice that the Mortis arc ripped it off.
I don't remind me of that.
No, it's his Clone Wars shorts. They fit in to every single marathon I do of the original 6 films.
They're amazing.
They
Best thing about
always
Clone
go in
Wars.
there.
It's the only time Star Wars TV ever worked, in my opinion.
And by the way, Michael P. Q. McDowell would have been a good honorable mention for me too.
Okay. Okay, so my number 5 is a tie. I know, what a shock. One of these we talked about, which is Brian Daly.
Okay.
But the other one is L. Neil Smith. And it's because these books are so similar in tone, I just couldn't differentiate. Taking two characters before there was really anything written about them and flushing them out. I really like the Lando Calrissian trilogy. They're very weird. They're very different, but it just screams of classic expanded universe.
Yeah.
And
I think Matt disagrees with you 100%.
But I
got comments to make. Let him finish.
nothing like what these two authors wrote has ever been done since. And I didn't put Alan Dean Foster on my list because Splinter of the Mind's Eye has some interesting ideas, but unfortunately, it really focuses on that Luke Leia love story, which is kind of funky to read, at post.
It was written as a cheap sequel for Star Wars.
Yes, and I think his Force Awakens novelization is pretty good at explaining the stupid Starkiller base weapon. He actually uses real life science to try to explain how it works. But basically, anytime you try to write Finn and Rey having love scenes of any kind or showing any interest in one another, Lucasfilm would make him take it out. He wrote a treatment for Rise of Skywalker where he explained that Rey was a cyborg, and I think that would have been a lot more interesting than what we actually got for the Rise of Skywalker. But The Approaching Storm is the most boring Star Wars book ever written.
Yes.
Okay.
Of
Approaching Storm or Planet Twilight.
I'll take Planet Twilight. No,
There
I'll
you
take
go. I got 8 more that I can give you.
It's a close, but I tell you what, I love the duel between Leia and the Hutt in Planet of Twilight. That's the only thing I like.
don't
I
even
love the part
remember
where
that.
she might have, where the Jedi Master was a Illuminata, thought that her Padawan might have fallen in a hole and couldn't have gotten out.
The thing is, Alan Dean Foster likes to think that he wrote Approaching Storm because he wanted strong women. But
Well,
has he actually read The Approaching Storm?
The lead-in novel to episode 2 puts you to sleep, whereas Labyrinth of Evil is like drinking a 6-pack of Red Bull.
Uh-huh.
By the end of that, you were just charged for episode 3. By the end of episode 2, you were lulled to sleep by chapter 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. All the stuff that was lead into episode 3. You had Tarkovsky's Clone Wars short animations. You had Labyrinth of Evil. You also had the Republic Commando video game, which pointed to episode 3. And I'm just remembering the hype levels those 3 things together put when I went to go see that on midnight release. That was amazing stuff they did with the Expanded Universe tie-ins there. Good times.
Yeah, that's my number 5.
Matt?
Number 5 is Alston. He's the only author to make me laugh the most. I've
Mhm.
laughed a lot of them. The one I laughed the most at is Austin. What a great sense of humor without seeming campy. Jeremy said that he would write books based off one funny scene in his head. That couldn't be more true than Mercy Kill
Yeah.
when Piggy does his dance. I guarantee you, he didn't have any idea what the next book would be about,
Mhm.
but he knew he was going to have Piggy strip nude and dance, or strip to his skivvies and dance. He knew that's what he was going to do. Then he had to come up with the story to get to that point. I promise you. And when he's typing it on his computer, Austin is giggling the entire time while he's writing that chapter. He's like, "This is it! This is it! Yeah!" He's cheering and everything. That is a big regret for not getting to see him before he passed away. Huge regret. No one wrote. I mean, here's the thing: when you replace Stackpole in a super successful series, because when it was the first time I saw Austin, I said, "Who's this?" It's not Stackpole. Oh, the quality has now gone down. That's what you're all going to assume. But then he steps in and does a great job. And in my opinion, is a little bit better than Stackpole. But if someone says Stackpole is better, I'm not going to argue with anyone. But his one misstep, stumbled a little bit, was Mercy Kill. Not the good old romp like Starfire's the Andumar or anything from Ray Squadron, which I think are just brilliant novels. But Mercy Kill's good, but just not great. And then the other stuff that he wrote too was fine too. But Austin, great author, underrated. Or I don't know, maybe the people's choice will be Austin. Do we already have Austin? It seems like we already did.
Yeah, he was at 9.
Okay,
Which is weird to me. I thought he should have been higher.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait till you get to people's choice for number 5.
We're there.
There's a logic to it, and this will also give away one of the other ones. The people's choice at number 5 is James Caan at 4.07. 4.05 at 9,809. He was the novelization for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I have him as an honorable mention simply because he only wrote that, and it's a fine novelization. I don't know. I read his Temple of Doom novelization, and I thought it was the weakest of all the Indiana Jones novelizations. But he's fine. He writes novelizations really well. That was his bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
He also wrote the Poltergeist novelization.
It just tells me I'm not into their people's choice there.
Yeah, the people's choice isn't very much aligned with where I'm at either.
I have a feeling Karen Travis is going to be number 1. I have a feeling.
Karen Travis does take one of the final 4 slots, I will say.
All right. The Republic Commando series or Planet of Twilight?
Republic Commando.
No.
Hard contact, man. Hard contact.
I know E10 had hard contact with that clone trooper.
Oh, she did. Those clone troopers are having hard contact with like the Twilight race.
Probably each other, because every time they say something Mando, they go, "We're Mando." Huh. It's like us because we talk Mando. Huh. We follow all the Mando traditions. Love it. Huh. Mando talk. Huh.
We'll get into it later.
I'll tell you what. I'll take Planet of Twilight over Wild Space.
I got 7 more books.
All right.
Number 4.
All right, so I'm just going to drop the bomb now and say this is actually where I put Zahn, is number 4 for me.
Interesting. That's very interesting. You put Zahn at number 4.
Yeah, I put him there. He is a very good author, obviously for the Heir of the Empire trilogy, but he has some other books in the Expanded Universe that didn't quite do as well. Almost feels like he dropped off a little bit there. But that's kind of just my general feeling for Timothy Zahn.
I'm going to throw my opinion out here because Zahn didn't make my list, period. Zahn wrote Heir of the Empire, like the whole Thrawn trilogy is good. Hand of Thrawn, I think, is better. Outbound Flight is the best book he ever wrote. Survivor's Quest is very mediocre. Allegiance Choices of One are not good. Scoundrels is embarrassingly bad. And all of his new canon work is terrible.
I had a friend of mine read all the Timothy Zahn stuff, and he goes, "Hey, Matt, he didn't know the difference between Legends and New Canon." He went, "What do you think of these three?" I went, "I never read those." He went, "Because I've been reading this stuff right now, and I've really loved it, but these three books are just horrible." And I went, "Those are the New Canon books." He went, "Oh, okay, so they're not part of the other." I said, "No." He went, "Oh," he said, "because it's like," he said, "I was reading these. I was like, man, I don't enjoy this. I usually enjoy Timothy Zahn, but and I agree with all that. He didn't make my list either. I think the Heir to the Empire trilogy is great. I do agree with you. I think Outbound Flight is just brilliant. It's brilliant. But he's someone who should have stopped early. He stops early. He's up high on my list. But because he kept going on, and he stinkers.
Oh yeah, they're embarrassingly bad.
Okay. Choices of One or Planet of Twilight. Choices of One is terrible.
Choices of One.
No, it makes zero
barely.
sense.
Just
barely. The Hand of the Empire are just dumb. You don't care about them at all. It's such a bad choice. In the cover, it's got to be with a hardback cover.
Paperback cover's fine.
Okay.
No,
I have to say this now because it's so topical. It's interesting, Brian, you put Timothy Zahn at number 4 because that's also where the masses have him. Choices of One is not only Timothy Zahn's, according to the masses, 4th best book, only beat out by the Thrawn trilogy. It is number 14 on the all-time list, according to the masses.
I think you need to check your data again.
Nothing happens. Luke and Mara keep barely missing each other. Why? Why do we need that? Why do you think that book? There's nothing redeemable about that book.
It just feels more competently written than Planet of Twilight, but just barely. It's like this.
I should bury my head into your chest like a Drock and suck the life right out of you. That's the Planet of Twilight.
6,313 people all decided that Choices of One was a 4.14 out of 5.
I disagree, but I have 6 more books that can are better.
All right, Dylan.
All right, my number 4 is one we've already mentioned, John Ostrander. My favorite comic series of all time is Legacy, the original Legacy up to Legacy of War. I love everything about the Legacy era. Up till that point, I don't like Legacy 2 for obvious reasons. But Ostrander is the best, in my opinion, comic author out there. He's the highest of all the comic authors. Everyone above him is a novel-only writer. And honorable mention also to Jan, who essentially was Ostrander's wingman, the writer-artist duo of John Ostrander and Jan Duursema. They have done some of the best stories in Star Wars comics, and it really pains me to put him at 4 but the other 3 are just so much better because I really do enjoy Legacy. I enjoyed the first Purge that he did. I haven't read all of Republic, but the bits of Republic that I have read have all been his stuff. It's all great. My only complaint with him, he does this thing that I don't like, is that he has this pet character that keeps dying and he keeps bringing him back. I wish he didn't do that, but that's my only complaint with him. That his pet character being Krook, of course.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, we're number 4.
Yes.
Tie once again. AC Crispin and Jude Watson. AC Crispin wrote an incredible Han Solo trilogy. How do you top Brian Daley's trilogy? Well, AC Crispin does it. You give Han Solo's origin. You don't quite talk about how Chewbacca and him met. Like, you don't see that, but then suddenly in book 2, they're a duo. Rebel Dawn, the end with explaining why Han and Lando had their falling out, only to have Timothy Zahn mess it up.
And Scoundrels.
With Scoundrels, which I think is one of the most offensive EU books ever. I'll tell you what, I'll take Planet of Twilight over Scoundrels. How about that?
Jude Watson.
Yeah, AC Crispin. I really like how gritty her books are. I mean, you can just check out Matt's video on Paradise Snare, and it's pretty much my opinion on it. I think it's really, really a solid book, and the whole trilogy is well worth your time. Jude Watson, I can't praise her enough. She's one of the reasons that I'm even into Star Wars. Her Jedi Apprentice books, I think, are incredible. Her Jedi Quest books are really good. Last of the Jedi has its moments, but overall, I think it's kind of a dud. And I'm just going to say this. We've talked about this many times. I think Jude Watson is Alex Wheeler and wrote Rebel Force. Rebel Force kind of is bad, but I'll tell you what, more hits than misses. Legacy of the Jedi, Secrets of the Jedi, both are really solid books. The Last One Standing short story is very bittersweet. I think that should have been the end of her stuff. But we did get Last of the Jedi, which, like I said, has its moments. But I mean, she defined who Qui-Gon Jinn was. She defined who Obi-Wan Kenobi really was. And AC Crispin really defines who Han, Chewie, and Lando are in like a more modern time. And that's why I kind of put them together as my pick. I just couldn't put one over the other.
You're right about Jude Watson. I may should have put her on this because Jedi Apprentice, no one writes Qui-Gon better, and that's the best children's book series there'll ever be. I just, if the EU were to continue, good luck. You'll never beat Jedi Apprentice, in my opinion.
No.
It's an amazing, incredible young adult series. Jedi Quest is very good. It follows in the vein of Jedi Apprentice. It's just lacking Qui-Gon, but that's its only fault. It's really good. Last of the Jedi is teetotal garbage. Then you get to Rebel Force, which is fine. A few hiccups here and there, but it's fine. It doesn't beat Jedi Quest or Jedi Apprentice. Nothing will.
No.
Those are fantastic novels. With Jedi Apprentice, the longest running series, and still strong all the way through.
Yeah.
Strong all the way through.
So,
Excellent.
assuming she is not Alex Wheeler, Jude Watson is still the most prolific Star Wars writer when it comes to novels. She has 47 of them. The next highest is Kevin J. Anderson, who has 21, less than half. And again, that's counting. That's counting the 14 books of Young Jedi Knights. No one is, when it comes to novels. Again, there's the caveat that these are young adult or junior novels, so not as big as a full adult novel. But no one is as prolific as Jude Watson, even if you assume that she isn't Alex Wheeler.
Pages and words would go to Kevin J. Anderson, correct?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Because again, he only has 4 total novels, and
Okay.
or adult novels, I should say, and even the the Young Jedi Knights books are still around the same size as
They're 110, 120.
Yeah, which is around
You
the same
need
size
about
like
3 of them to compete against a big
Yeah.
novel. So that'd be another, if he made 18, you're looking at another 6 novels maybe.
I think
Well-
I mentioned in a video, it would be interesting if someone would ever figure out who word count wise is the most prolific Star Wars author. That's a level even above me. I don't have the patience for that. But
Yeah.
video idea for anyone out there who wants to tackle that. Who ranking by word count? Who wrote more EU?
There you go.
that would be one heck of a bit of research you'd have to do. Where are we at with number 4 then?
What do the masses think? Or
No, Matt.
Matt
we
just
got
thought-
number 4.
Matt.
Oh, mine. My number 4 was mentioned earlier by Jeremy. It's Elmil Smith. That Lando Calrissian trilogy is incredible. And what he did right. First off, Lando's great. Lando's a great character. Also, on top of Lando being great, Vufira is the perfect foil to. They make a good team. There's lots of humor in it. Adam and Noah and I were talking about this just this weekend. Which one is the best out of the trilogy? I don't know. The first one is really good because Lando looks like Sherlock Holmes at the end of it, and just kind of he untangles the big mystery, he unwraps it, but he knew all along. He outsmarted the villain. It's just great. It's great. It sets the tone of who Lando is. He's not a Han Solo fill-in, and the book tells you that. Comes out swinging in book 1. Book 3 has one of the best ongoing gags in any book. Aaron Alston wishes he was that smart, because that sabacc joke that is in it for about 3 or 4 times that novel is great. I bet it pisses a few people off. Like, he is at gunpoint. Everyone's pointing guns at him. Then the next chapter, sabacc. He's playing games with. How did he do it? It's just Lando. He smooth talked his way out of it.
Sheer charisma.
And now he's playing cards with him because that's who Lando is. He's a silver-tongued gorilla. He's fantastic. And that was so. I thought that was in the whole book series, but it was only in the 3rd book, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And plus, not many people, if anyone, has ever made the Millennium Falcon feel like a character. The Millennium Falcon, when they're shooting the turbo lasers and they're all at full power, he sees the lights in the Falcon go dim because it's taking juice from other areas. You know, the little slide lever that's at the top of the Millennium Falcon when Han's push it. Well, Lando gets up, hits his head on it, and goes, "What blasted moron puts it up there?" That's right. That is not a very good place for it. But then when it leans and moves, you hear it creaking. You hear like one of the adjustments creaked, and he just oiled that, but the thing still creaks. And yes, it's an old rickety tank. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. A tank, and no one has done a better job explaining what the Millennium Falcon's like than L. Neil Smith.
That's a good
And
point.
made such an enjoyable series. I had no idea how good that was going to be the first time I read it. Second time I went in being serious. I said, is this going to go down on my list? No, it stayed high on my list. An amazing author. It took him 2 weeks to write one book. And that's because Lucasfilm Del Rey said, you got 6 weeks to write the trilogy.
Wow.
He locked himself in a room for 6 weeks. He hated his experience writing those books, but in 6 weeks, he crunched out an amazing trilogy.
I didn't
Who
even
does
know.
that under pressure? When
That's-
he couldn't do anything about the movies. He had to fight to get the Millennium Falcon. But
3 books
everything
in
else he
6
couldn't
weeks.
have. And so he had to go totally off his own. You have 2 weeks to write a novel. Good luck. Good luck.
And
Just
making
really
him
think
out that
how
role.
great he is.
Chuck Wendig, what's your excuse at only taking 45 days? Huh?
Came out with garbage.
Well, that's something I did not know. So that's pretty impressive to me. I think we already did the People's Choice for number 4, correct?
Yeah,
No.
it was Timothy Zahn.
Right.
4.07, 270,575.
Okay.
Most of that is from the Thrawn trilogy.
Good deal. And I want to ask Jeremy, Stealth and Gambit versus Planet of Twilight.
Of course, Planet of Twilight wins. Stealth and Siege are the two. They're the worst Star Wars book ever. It's the worst.
Keep going.
We're getting there.
Not according to the masses. The masses think it's Karen Miller's top 10 material. Okay.
Question
Number 3.
to anyone who's seen my reviews. Which of Karen Miller's books did I say was a litter box full of used tampons? Because I think it was either that
I can't say I
or
remember that one.
Sponsored by
Wow.
Creed. They
Wow.
said litter box full of tampons. It was that era.
Wow.
So number 3.
Make the kids go to sleep.
So I have Karpyshyn here at number 3 for myself, for a lot of reasons we've already discussed. But he gets a lot of bonus points for having been the writer behind one of my favorite video games of all time, Knights of the Old Republic. So, but his books are awesome. Very, very good reads, very fun reads. I know a lot of people that have them at the top of their lists within my own circles. So I would not be surprised if those books end up pretty high on the masses lists there, Dylan.
Well, you already know because I think you've seen the video. So.
I've seen your video. But that's my number 3. I think we've already discussed him. So Dylan, where are you at for number 3?
James Luceno.
So,
Okay, my 3 and 2 are constantly switching. It's the same 2 people. I leapfrog them all the time because it's the. I'll get into this when I get my number 2. But for Luceno himself, no other author has written in as many eras as him. Has like 8 novels. Like it's one of the more. It's like top 5 of like the most for adult novels. But like just the ability to kind of like plug him in like literally anywhere in the timeline, and like he can just bang out a story. He's the continuity guy more than anyone else. Able to fit things together, able to piece it all together, able to like just like make this one bit of a story fit into the overall story, build the overall story around it. He was the one who, again, it was him and Shelley Shapiro were the 2 who like had the idea for New Jedi Order. It started from them 2. It was their idea. It was their brainchild. They were the one who worked it all out, who got all the authors and like made the overall arching story. Luceno is Luceno, and it pains me that there are 2 authors ahead of him. And sometimes I flip them because again, he's just done so much. And the one blemish on Luceno is I agree with Matt. Cloak of Deception. I do not like Cloak of Deception. I think it is fairly boring of a story, and it is his weaker one. But everything else is just so great that he has the longevity and the consistency, in my opinion.
So I know Jeremy said Cloak of Deception was good for him. Do you have a book that you liked less than Cloak of Deception for Luceno then?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's his least best Star Wars book, and I preface this by Star Wars because I've read other things that he's written non-Star Wars. Well, no, because his new canon Tarkin book, where he made Tarkin like a psychopath, is kind of wonky, but that has enough EU continuity that I didn't mind it. His 2 new canon books I would rank lower than Cloak of Deception, but I don't think they're bad. They're A tier for the new canon. Let me put it that way.
Well, I have nothing to base that decision, that opinion on. So, where are you at for number 3 then?
For me, it's a tie, I do believe. Yes, it is a 4-way tie. First one, Michael Reeves.
This is Jeremy's attempt to name every author in the EU.
I think so.
Oh, I could. It was
2-way, 3-way, 4-way, 10-way tie for number 1.
Oh no, number 1 is one person.
Okay.
Number 2 is a pile of people. Number 1,
just go with it. Go. Name the whole cast of New Jedi.
This is coming from the person who has the top 10 EU novels that are actually 50 books.
okay.
I knew that was coming back.
Jeremy's top 37 authors. Go.
All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
So it's Michael Reeves, Steve Perry, John Ostrander, and Hayden Blackman are all tied for number 4.
I'm shocked you have Hayden Blackman in there, but I agree.
Because I have reread almost all of his work.
Told you he's good.
He's good up until a point.
He is the second best comic writer.
Yes. Well, he is the second best when it comes to quantity, but there is someone in my honorable mentions I think is better, but only wrote one thing. And I think you'll know who I'm talking about.
Is that the Twin Engine?
Andy Mangels.
Andy Mangels is great. That's a great one-shot book, yeah.
But it's only one, and so I couldn't.
Did you read his little short story that came out that got leaked? The sequel to what's it called?
No, I haven't read it yet. I have not.
Hunter Prey or something like that. It's a shame because when you're reading it, you're thinking this should have been a comic book. There's a lot of action in there, and they kind of describe it. But I'm thinking, no, this is a pitch to a comic book, is what it is. It's not really a short story.
So let me get into the whole Michael Reeves thing. I love all of Michael Reeves' books except for Coruscant Nights. I don't mind
Really?
Coruscant Nights, but it's
What?
not my favorite.
Coruscant Nights gets worse after every book.
Yes,
And
I-
Last of the Jedi.
The Last Jedi is not good.
Okay,
but
that or Planet of Twilight.
Last Jedi.
No, why? That is terrible. That is a terrible novel. That is a terrible book. You know it is. Search your feelings. You know it's true.
They're both bad, though. This is
No, but
this
that's
is like
come
picking
on.
between which
Last
word
Jedi
is
makes you
better
want
to
to wake
type.
up and punch a puppy in the face. It's just so bad. It's so bad.
Last Jedi. I also agree with you. Last Jedi is not as bad as Planet of Twilight, but Last Jedi takes like one of my favorite tropes. They like the found family thing, and
Mhm.
like within the first 2 chapters, completely breaks it apart. Like no, they're not a family anymore. One of them's dead, and the other doesn't want to work with anyone anymore. It's like why do that? But that was the best part about Coruscant Nights was the whole squad all working together. They all had their things, and now one of them dies, and the other doesn't. And now it doesn't work because he's too sad and he doesn't want to work with everyone else again.
Yeah.
Why
And
do that?
and it's kind of left open for another one, but you don't want another one.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But MedStar,
Yes.
Best-
one of the
best.
best Star Wars
Best
Clone Wars
book.
tie-in novels that wasn't written by James Luceno.
Best Clone Wars novel. MedStar 1
yeah,
and 2. Excellent.
Both MedStar books are great.
Excellent.
Shadowhunter,
Mhm.
Good.
incredible,
Very
Best
good.
small book in my opinion.
incredible.
MedStar still number 1 for me. But I agree.
Death Star is my number 1 though that he wrote,
Death Star's great too.
and that's why Steve Perry got tied in. Because you can feel most of the time it feels like a Michael Reeves novel, but there's a couple moments that feel like Steve Perry, mainly when the Twilight bartender has the physical and she just strips out of her clothes. That feels like a Steve Perry moment because Steve Perry puts weird sex things in, but it seems like Michael Reeves went in and they made humor out of it. They made a joke out of it. And I can't remember what's his face, who's in MedStar. He's also in Death Star. And he's like, well, I didn't ask you to do that. And she's like, I know you would eventually. Like, I just cackled. Like, it's a good way of taking Steve Perry, who I do like as an author, aside from his weird sexual things he puts in his books. Like, his Aliens books are really weirdly sexual. Or in Shadows of the Empire, the seducing of Leia with Zizor's pheromones. But I'll tell you what, Shadows of the Empire, one of the first books I remember my parents reading to me. So it has a special spot in my heart. And it's one of the most, in my opinion, with Steve Perry, it's one of the most cinematic Star Wars books ever written. It feels like a movie. And it makes sense that George Lucas would be like, okay, this is the big thing. We're going to have toys. We're going to have a soundtrack. We're going to have a video game. We're going to have a YA novel. We're going to have comics. And each one of those stories is different. It adds a different element to it. But it's all the same story. It just has different things, different characters. Just it was the big event. And Steve Perry was the right choice to lead that event. Shadow Games, one of the most underrated Star Wars books ever written.
Shadow Games is great.
I'm reading that right now.
The only downside to Steve Perry's writing is Shadows of the Empire Evolutions, which has some of the worst Star Wars covers ever for comics. It's just it's not terrible, but it's not good. It's an unnecessary. It's one of the most unnecessary stories in Star Wars. But I mean, Steve Perry, you can see he really. I mean, Black Sun, that's his idea. Like, a big bad going forward. And he and Michael Reeves are just the perfect team. Now, with John Ostrander, he's just the best. Dawn of the Jedi, it's not that great. It feels like it could have been great if there had been time. I reread Dawn of the Jedi, everything Dawn of the Jedi recently, and my general conclusion was that it was building to something, and then they skipped about 20 issues, and then they ended it.
Yeah.
And because the end is really solid, and you could have gone further, like what John Jackson Miller did with Knights of the Old Republic and tied off the little ends of it. But he did a better job than who wrote Into the Void?
Tim
Leb.
Levin.
Tim Levin, who I don't think is a bad author necessarily. Bad for Star Wars, sure, but not a bad author overall.
Into the Void or Planet of Twilight.
Well, you've seen my review. I didn't mind Into the Void. I actually said it was kind of different and good in a lot of ways. This is one of the few times you see Force alchemy.
I like how Matt has frozen on my screen.
Yep. I think that's an appropriate time for him to freeze too.
But anyway, John Ostrander, there's not a lot more I can add to it, although I think he wrote Agent of the Empire, his take on James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is weaker than his Dawn of the Jedi stuff, but at the same time, I kind of wanted him to write some James Bond comics. To get to Hayden Blackman. So Hayden Blackman's big thing he's known for is Force Unleashed, which I think is awful. It's one of the worst things that happened to the expanded universe, in my opinion.
It's what kept him off my list, actually, for the Force Unleashed. I considered him, but I couldn't do it because of the Force Unleashed.
When John Ostrander isn't writing, Hayden Blackman's writing the Republic comics, and they're incredible. And then I've reread a few of my favorite comics ever, the ones that really changed my opinion on writing. One of those being The Crow. I reread The Crow. I reread Watchmen. I reread a bunch of the classic comics. Then I read a little thing called Jango Fett Open Seasons, and I think it is the best comic book ever written.
That's a strong statement.
I think it's single-handedly the best setup. I can't even say it's the best Star Wars. I think it's just the best in general. I think it's one of the best comics ever written. But at the same time, you made two of the most overrated video games of all time. At least Hayden Blackman didn't soil his name with writing those awful novelizations. They gave that to a deserving author named Sean Williams to do. But anyway, Matt, what's your number 4?
I mean, it was so long that my internet
Number 3, number 3, not number 4.
Oh, number 3. Number 3.
All right, so my number 3 is Dave Wolverton.
Okay.
You have a lot of children's books in here too. He's the one that kicked off Jedi Apprentice. It was very good. He wrote a bunch of the episode 1 adventures, the Star Wars missions, which is like when nobody's watching, you just, do you go on autopilot or do you make a good story? He chose to make a good story.
Yes.
Courtship of Princess Leia is a good story. I'll be honest, there is some biasness here because I think Dave Wolverton is probably the most amazing author Star Wars ever had. We all got to talk. I say all of us. I don't know if Brian got to talk to him, but Dylan, Jeremy, and I have all talked to him. And there's no one on this face of the planet who made you feel like you were his peer. I mean, he just made you feel like you were just old friends whenever he talked to you. And he was just such a kind soul. And so there is a little biasness there, but that's why he's number 3.
Yeah.
And by the way,
by
the way, Into the Void or Planet of Twilight?
Into the Void. I don't think it's a bad
book. Full of garbage. You're so full of garbage. You're lying.
Watch my review.
You're lying through your teeth.
From over.
All right, hold on. I'm going to get you to admit one of these. Jedi Trial. You like doing homework? Because that's what Jedi Trial.
Oh, no, God. I'll take Planet of Twilight over Jedi Trial.
Thank you. Hold on. I still got more. I'm still getting you a Knight Errant. You got to admit.
Oh, I'll take Planet of Twilight over Knight Errant.
There you go. Yeah. Hold on. Let's keep going. I got 2. Oh, wait. You said yes to that one. That was so stupid. You said yes to that. Okay. So I got one more. iJedi. You're going to hurt Brian's feelings. So say no.
I already know you guys don't like the book, so.
Yeah, no, I'll take Planet of Twilight over iJedi, but that's a tough.
There you go. All right. So there's all
I'll
mine.
tell
All
you
right.
what, I'll
What's
take.
the number 3 by the people?
The number 3.
Well,
it should
Matt,
be
what's
just
your number 3?
Oh, I said Dave Wolverton.
Wolverine.
Oh, you did.
Wolverine.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
I
Number
don't know
3
what
is the other OT novelization author that isn't Alan Dean Foster, Donald Glut. Alan Dean
didn't
Foster would have been on this list had he not wrote other things. But again, the people love the OT novelizations. Donald Glut wrote Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. The only thing noteworthy of Empire Strikes Back is Yoda's blue.
I didn't
That's
know
the
that.
only thing I remember
We
from.
only had concept art to go by.
Exactly,
at the time.
and like, the comic adaptation of Empire Strikes Back, I think, is better. It's got better art. I mean, Yoda's really like sits on Luke's shoulder. He's like really tiny and stuff.
He's impish.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
number 2.
Number 2. Who does
All right.
number 2 work for?
Good old Austin Powers there.
Horrible.
All right, so I've got this is where I have Aaron Alston. I always appreciate humor, and I can't not talk about Alston without referring back to Starfighters of Artemar, which is probably my favorite book of his that I've read. And I've probably read that one enough to a point where I do remember almost specific quotes from certain scenes, like where Wedge has a long night and wakes up the following morning and tells the squadron that they need to shoot down the sun because it offends him. And I'm just like, that kind of stuff is hilarious. It's believable. You would see pilots talking like that to one another. It's
Again,
just
hilarious without being campy. I
Right.
agree.
So Alston's at number 2 for me.
My number 2, and again, I flip on this all the time with Lucino, is Matthew Stover. Because he's
also my number 2. He's one of the tie.
Whoa, big crossover. We all both talk about him because
Yeah.
Jeremy has 3 other people at number 2.
Oh no, there's another 4.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, Matthew Stover has, in my opinion, written the best Star Wars novel ever written, the Revenge of the Sith novelization.
Yes, I agree.
He has also written, in my opinion, the best New Jedi Order book, that being Traitor.
I don't agree with that.
And
It's really good though. It'd be my top 5.
and I also really like Shatterpoint.
I do. I like the first half of Shatterpoint.
Like, the thing with Stover, it's the Stover versus Lucino argument in my head is Stover has the much higher peak. I think Stover doesn't have a bad book, whereas Lucino, in my opinion, has Cloak of Deception. And Stover's highs are a lot higher than Lucino's highs. Because I think while Unifying Force and Plagueis are really close to Revenge of the Sith, they're not quite there. And I think even Traitor is better than I think Traitor is arguably better than Plagueis. It pains me to say that.
Wow.
I think it's very close.
I can see why you'd say it.
I'm going to. Can I?
But
jump in?
Lucino has the longevity, and he's got twice as many novels. It's like, but he's less consistent. It's why they always swap. I can.
Yeah.
They're right. They're 2 and 3, but which one is 2 and which one's 3 depends.
Here's my one problem with Stover. Stover. Oh, here we go. Look who decided to wake up. Look who decided to wake up. We're at number 2.
I'm sorry, I forgot everything about this. You should have told me yesterday. Like, remind me, like, oh, remember, we're gonna do a stream. I was asleep, so yeah.
Well,
I literally just woke up.
Okay.
I mean, you look fantastic. I bet birds sing to you when you wake up, just like Snow White.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so my problem with Matthew Stover is this. He can take something and over-explain it and make it horribly boring. For instance, let's talk about Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, which I think is his worst book.
Haven't gotten
Because
to it yet.
Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, you know what the outcome is going to be. at the beginning of it. It is Luke's transition to not being in the New Republic military. Okay, it could be a fine novel, even when we know that's the outcome. But then we spend page upon page upon page explaining how a TIE Defender works. If I wanted to know what that fucking shit was, I'd read a fucking schematic book. I don't want that in my novel. I don't fucking want that in my novel. But at the same time, Shatterpoint's incredible up until it becomes war porn and becomes him putting the Vietnam War in Star Wars. Traitor is his most concise book. Because I think they told him he had to have a certain page count because he kept coming up with new ideas. I think they said, Matthew, that's great, but you got to fit this in about 300 pages. But his Revenge of the Sith novel, I think, is the peak of novelizations as a whole. I really like how much his EU knowledge. But sometimes it's just horribly boring. But anyway, I want to digress here before we get into my 5-way tie at number 2 and Noah name off his list from
Up
10
to number 2. I was going to suggest that.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I have a 5-way tie. So,
all right, Noah, your list 10-2.
My list. Okay. Let's start with honorable mentions.
Well, I was going to do that between 2 and 1.
Oh, okay. So I should wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 10, Tom Veach.
Okay.
That's a great pick, actually.
Mm-hmm. Number 9, A.C. Crispin.
Okay,
we had A.C. Crispin on here. Someone mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Number 8, John Jackson Miller.
Okay.
Number 7, Mary Jo Duffy.
Hey, that was my number. That was my number 9.
9, yeah.
I
good one, Noah.
Number 6, Aaron Alston.
Okay, that was so
mentioned on all of our list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Number 5 is Jude Watson.
Mentioned again.
Uh-huh.
Number 4 is Greg Keyes.
Okay, yeah.
Mentioned by Dylan. Most of the authors have been mentioned because Jeremy's had 5-way ties on every number.
Yes.
That's nice.
Jeremy's list is exactly like Matt's top 10 EU novels, where there are 50 authors on it approximately.
Number 3 is John Ostrander.
Okay.
Wow, that's high, but I love it. That
was part of my 4-way tie for number 3.
And then number 2 is Matthew Stover.
Also my number 2.
So now we got to get into my 5-way tie for number 2. We did talk about Matthew Stover, which is my number 2. The first one is Dave Wolverton, one of the kindest human beings that I've ever talked to. And I'm trying not to make that bias, but I mean, he took, like we talked about with Kathy Tyers, he really took what Zahn had put out and he just made it better with Courtship of Princess Leia. His episode 1 adventures, I want to talk about those because those shouldn't be as good as they are. Also, who would bring in ghostlings? Dave Wolverton would. He's the only one that read, what was that? Crystal Star. And then Matt's gone, whatever. Anyway, Dave Wolverton, really great. Wish he wrote more adult novels. We only got the 1, but the 1 is good. Next, Ryder Winham. I don't know why you're suddenly... We'll remove you. There we go. I don't know what happened. Anyway, Ryder Winham also tied for similar reasons. Ryder Winham really understood the EU. And I think that Lucasfilm did not appreciate him. They did him dirty from what we've talked about behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's a miss on me. That's another miss. I should have put him on here too.
I mean, he
Let's-
was right. Clone Wars secret missions should not have been good. Shouldn't have been good, but are 4 really solid novels.
They really are.
His Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, Luke, and Maul stuff, all really interesting stuff. I wish he had written an adult novel. I think out of any of the YA authors who only wrote YA, I think that he should have written an adult novel, at least one. He just had such a grip of the expanded universe. Then we already talked about Matthew Stover, Drew Karpyshyn. The Old Republic wouldn't be the way it is without Drew Karpyshyn. I mean, that's his brainchild. The Darth Bane trilogy. My dad is in the middle of Rule of Two right now. He's like, you got to put Drew Karpyshyn on your list. You gotta put it on there. You got it. These books are incredible, Jeremy. I can't believe I hadn't read them sooner. You know, but like with the exception, Revan's kind of meh.
I will say that I agree with that. Revan was kind of a meh book
But
compared
I
to the
love-
character, but
I
love
enjoyed Revan,
Annihilation. Annihilation feels like classic Star Wars, but in the Old Republic era. It feels like something that could have been a Bantam story. And
Fatal Alliance or Planet Twilight.
Planet of Twilight.
There you go.
No, I
did it.
I said
He
that
did it.
Planet of Twilight was terrible.
I
and
knew
he's
there was
like,
another one on my list I'd forgotten.
I think
Yeah.
that puts you at the 8 you were looking for, or the 10 you were looking for there, Matt.
Yeah, no. Anything I take anything Barbara Hambry wrote over Sean Williams.
So sorry, because I missed this. Matt, do you have Barbara Hambly on your top 10?
Not yet.
No, but he was talking about how Planet Twilight is the worst. And I said I could name 10 novels worse than that.
But how? But
Siege
like,
and
that's
Gambit,
one of them
one
were-
of them.
What's that?
That was
Siege and
that was
Gambit is one of
one.
them.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the worst thing that's in the EU. That
I'm
is-
not defending Planet Twilight. I'm just saying
Oh.
there is worse.
Oh no, you missed it. According to the masses, Karen Miller is the 8th best Star Wars author.
Ugh. That's-
He's wishing he
No.
didn't go on the stream.
I should have hit snooze.
oh, God.
Oh Lord.
I
Okay.
should have continued
No, it would have been
sleeping.
funny if you'd have gone, wait a minute, guys, I haven't woken up yet.
I still got 2 more with this tie. The next is John Jackson Miller, and I'll tell you why I put him at number 2.
Because
he's
you had
written
7 other
trash.
people there and you thought, I don't want to leave him by himself.
Well, he was the first one I put at number 2.
Oh, okay. He's your number 1 at number 2. Go for
Exactly.
The true number 2 guy.
But he is the shit. And but KOTOR, his KOTOR comic is so good. It might be the best Star Wars comic series of comics. I put it over Legacy. It's just the characters I think are just slightly better. And Kenobi, who would have thought a Western would work in Star Wars before, everyone jerked off on the Mandalorian. It's like, oh, it's a spaghetti Western. I'm like, Kenobi did it first. Especially after watching that Obi-Wan miniseries, it made me really even appreciate Kenobi even more. To not ruin my brain cells. But no, I can admit, Knight Errant's terrible. Lost Tribe of the Sith, I think, is what happens when you write free stuff.
I never will. I mean, I know that came out in a Capendrium novel, which I'm very happy for, but I can't knock that because that was ultimately free. And I don't
can't
want
do
to. I mean, overall, yeah, Lost Tribe of the Sith is not that good, but I can't fault him for that. That's free stuff. I can't.
Yeah,
complain
and
about that.
I think that the concept for both Knight Errant and Lost Tribe are interesting. They just don't quite work.
I think Lost Tribe does work. At least definitely better than Knight Errant.
Oh yeah, Knight Errant's. Why is there a Knight Errant novel between Knight Errant comics? There's no point. That might be the most pointless Star Wars book besides Ruins of Dantooine. But I will say that Ruins of Dantooine is better than Planet of Twilight.
I agree. I agree.
But But
Ruins of
yeah,
Dantooine, I'm not going to throw that one on you.
I mean, it has the best cover in the EU by far.
I can't wait for the Essential Legends collection to make it an even worse cover.
Is that Wave 6?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
There's one
Ruins
more.
of Dantooine or the latest Dawn of the Jedi cover?
Ruins of
There's-
Dantooine.
Yeah,
It
there's
doesn't
something.
look like a third grader with a broken arm drew it.
There's something like I can't describe it. It's so bad. It's like it crosses the threshold of it's so bad it's good.
It transcends. It's modern art. But anyway, the last person tied at number 2, Tom Veitch. I can't,
Noah, thanks for mentioning Tom Beach because he just added him to his number.
no,
2.
I added Tom
Yeah.
Veitch.
It's
when we-
okay. It's okay.
But Tom Veitch is one of those people that really defined the EU. Dark Empire, incredible. Even
Which is my
Empire's
number
End.
one favorite comic. I think
What's
Tom
that?
Beach is brilliant.
Dark
Yeah.
Empire, you said?
And Tales of the Jedi is right below that.
Oh yeah, Tales of the Jedi, even better.
I could flip those two at any time.
I mean, Lightsider. Now we can now talk about Lightsider. Incredible! I can't wait to review coming soon, everyone. Of Lightsider. Now that I can't sneakily, well, can I tell this story, Matt? Since
Yeah, you can.
so Matt handed me Lightsider when Dylan and I went to his house, and I sat and read it over the span of like half an hour to an hour. And I liked it so much I wanted to photocopy.
Well, I let y'all look at the shelf,
Uh-huh.
and I talked to I said, look, someone's coming to visit me. I want to show him. He said, yeah, you can totally do that. And so I let him look at the shelf, and they look at. I can't remember which one he found first. But y'all went, what? What's this? And I went, what's it say? He went, what? And I mean, Jeremy's just sitting there. What? And I remember you sat down on the floor right there and just started. And then Dylan and I started talking because you just automatically you had to read it.
I had to read
You
it.
had to, and you sat there and read the whole thing on the floor.
That sounds like
What
how I
kind
was
of
in
story?
bookstores when I was finding books back in the
You
day.
guys got to understand, Cam Sasalier, when I read Dark Empire, I was at a wedding with one of my childhood friends, and I didn't want to be there because I didn't like his wife. They're now divorced. I can now talk about this. And I had never read any of the Dark Empire stuff because I couldn't find it. And I went to a free comic book day, the day of prom senior year, and I found the Dark Empire trilogy in hardcover
Nice.
for cover price of $25.
Ooh.
And I bought it. And I had no money at the time. It was all the money I had. And I got that, and I got the free comic book day issue of The Tick. And I read The Tick first, of course, because I'm a huge Tick fan. But the Dark Empire stuff, I was reading that during the wedding. And I'm like, who's this Cam Sasalier character? He's awesome. Where's this introduction? Why? This doesn't make any sense. And then I found out about Lightsider, and I'm like, I have to read this, but it doesn't exist. And this bothered me. This bothered me for several years until I met Matt Wilkins, and he and I, at our first conversation, talked about Lightsider. This was the first
It
thing.
wasn't great because I'd never gotten to talk about it with anyone.
And in hindsight, I kind of knew that you knew something that I didn't know, but you weren't going to say it at the time. This is when we used to all Skype back in the day. Everyone to
The Skype days.
the Skype days. This is
Yeah.
how I met Brian. This is how I kind of met Dylan. I met Dylan through a Google Hangout. But this is the days of the early EU rebellion as we all talked through Skype. And Matt and I had a 4 or 5 hour conversation of us just talking about the EU. Oh man, and this is how the Legends podcast began. Is just our love of Star Wars. But at your house, when I discovered that, I had to read. It was
You
compulsion.
sat down on the floor. I remember exactly what happened. Yeah.
Was this
And
before or
then,
after Dylan finished your
I'll
cheesy
give
post?
kudos to Noah's video. I had no idea that I'd shown a camera angle from the side that actually showed the title of the book. I was really good about not showing that, but when I was like, "Whoa, I did show it!
That's
Wow!"
right. But
Did
yeah,
not
no, it was
know
the-
that.
Brian, to answer your question, this is the same day that Dylan ate all of Megan's cheese.
Not all of them.
You ate all of them.
No.
She called. She went that morning when we started taking off. She went, so I guess y'all enjoyed cheese balls. I said, what do you mean? I said, we didn't have the cheese balls. I said, I gave it to Dylan. What? How many are left? She went, there's none. I was like, no, Dylan done ate all your cheese balls. But I'll be honest, Dylan, I got another whole barrel of those things. Man, those things are tasty, dude. You just pop them in. You don't even know
I'm not faulting them. Those are really good.
Yeah, no, those are pretty good. But yeah, I was too busy drinking beer.
But you know what? She told Dylan unlimited cheese balls if she comes back. She really misses you, Dylan.
It's only a matter of time before they get you there.
All right. Okay, 2 hour mark. What's your number 2?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm done now.
Did Noah give his 2?
Yeah, my number 2 was Matthew Stover.
Okay, mine is gonna wait. I heard you wrong. I thought we had a tie on number 2 here, Noah. Mine's Troy Denning.
Oh no, I can't do. He's number 1 on a different list.
I know he is.
Yeah. I obviously I'm a big Troy Denning fan. I think Star by Star is the best. Such a great novel. Just one draw. There's several big. You take some of my top moments in the EU. You could pull at least 2 of them probably from this novel. Boris Fila's death, spoilers, I guess, and Anakin Skywalker's death are just 2 huge moments in this. Of course, this is where he kills off so many people in Star by Star.
Yeah.
But Boris Fila's death has just got to be one of the best moments in the expanded universe. He finally gets that hero turn, and I mean, I could see it as a movie as it was playing out. It's just
it was
ahead.
written well enough that you could see it.
Yes, it was written so well. His only trip up to me was Tatooine's Ghost. I wasn't that impressed with it. It was more of a, hey guys, I just saw episode 1. Let me try to cram this into the story during the rebellion or during the Bantam era, which makes 0 sense. Like back then, I guess everyone knew that Anakin was Darth Vader. No, because you've read the rest of the Bantam, that wasn't that big of a, it wasn't a secret, but it wasn't that big of public knowledge either.
Mm-hmm.
But if you read Tatooine's Ghost, everyone else knew. I don't know. It's just that's the only unfortunate thing for me. But yeah, bugs. I love them. All right. So what is the people's number 2? If it's Troy Denning, Noah's going to quit. Rage quit.
I am sorry, Noah. I'm so sorry. But number 2 is the other everyone's favorite Clone Wars author, Karen Traviss.
No.
I knew it.
4.13, 60,897 people.
It's not surprising.
It's not surprising when you hear Jeremy saying, "I'd rather watch Etan, fawn over Mando clones than Planet Twilight." That's just horrible.
But I'll tell you what. One of the first negative reviews we got on the Legends podcast on iTunes was because we didn't like Karen Traviss.
Yep.
She's popular. I know a lot of people that I know actually do appreciate those Republic Commando books.
In fact, I think the comment states the podcast is great, but they make fun of Karen Traviss.
Okay.
And I don't like it.
I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. I considered Karen Traviss as the number 10. And that seems really weird because I don't like Karen Traviss as an author. But she is so frustratingly inconsistent. There are times in the Republic Commando series, and especially in like the Clone Wars, where it's some of the best stuff I've ever written. When she's focusing in on the clones and the war and the Clone Wars and the war and like the horrible situation they are in and how they're dealing with it, it is some of the best stuff I've ever written. I've ever read. But at the same time, she has then it's like, well, I'm dating the Jedi. Oh, well, this clone also has a girlfriend. Let's bring in another girlfriend for the clones. Oh, the Jedi are bad, by the way. All the Jedi are bad, but these 3 Jedi, they're okay. But
she wrote Wild Space
because they don't like the other Jedi.
No, she wrote No Prisoners.
No Prisoners. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, no prisoner. No Prisoners is pretty good, That's
Yeah.
So the only
in my
books of
opinion.
her I would consider good. No Prisoners is kind of wonky just because it feels off, having like Bantam characters meeting TCW characters. But I would say Hard Contact, her first book, is actually
Yes.
decent the whole way through because there isn't
Yeah.
romance stuff.
It's
There
her
is
best
still
book.
True too.
yeah, and like Matt says, Etain is still like a character, but still, that one I would recommend to anyone. It's fine. But
Triple
starting
Zero
with
is
her
like when
second
they-
book,
Like when they tell her, "Hey, you know, the clone, your Darman, what was his name?
Yeah.
Darman. Remember, he's still like a 10-year-old," and she's like, "Yeah, I'm getting horny," and keeps talking.
No, Matt, it's even worse than that. She doesn't even see Darman. She senses his presence in the Force before
As a child.
she actually sees him, and she describes it as the essence of a child. He has the
then-
same Force signature of a child.
Yeah,
and then in the end of the second book, she's pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'll
so
tell you
with
what.
book 2 onwards, it just falls apart. Order 66, the book doesn't have a plot. It's just every clone's romance.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. With going back to Triple
And
Zero,
Etain dying stupidly.
the climax of Triple Zero when they go on the Mando hunt to get the terrorists is it's well written.
Oh yeah, that's great. Again,
That's great
stuff
action.
I love.
That's what she's good at. But I mean, her books and Legacy of the Force
Mhm.
are so awful. What was the second last one? Revelation. When the main story ends, and we still got to talk about the Mandalorians because Mandalorians, and then
Karen Terrence, she makes the Mandalorians like a galactic power again
Mhm.
in her books, which is irrelevant and never becomes important in anything else ever again. They develop a super undefeatable starfighter that makes the Sun Crusher look like lame in comparison.
or
They
how about
also
Boba
defeat the
Fett?
main villain with ease.
Right. And
How
then in the next
about-
series,
I got to talk about her and Boba Fett, and the geriatric bunch that are her characters that show up in Legacy of the Force, because they should all be in walkers.
Become a
They should
Karen
have
Travis hate
space
cream.
walkers and space
I was gonna
wheelchairs.
say, wait, we really went way off on this.
Oh, no, I got to lay this all out because I have major issues with this. Freaking. First of all, Boba Fett, A Practical Man, is one of the worst
yes,
short stories ever written.
it is only saved from being the worst Star Wars New Jedi Order stories by the fact that Invasion exists.
Yes, exactly.
Practical Man has the great already with the opening you can tell what you're in for because she at every start she quotes. Practical Man begins with a quote by Vergier saying, "The Mandalorians are the third side of a two-sided blade with the Jedi and the Sith," and it's like, oh no, Karen, no.
Oh yeah, and like the whole thing with New Jedi Order that I liked is the Tales short story where the Mandalorians are in league with the Vong. It made sense. When Han and Boba Fett meet after all these years since that weird story in Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
Hmm.
And Boba Fett's we teamed up with the Vong. But then he shows up in Unifying Force, and it's all awesome again. But I think Boba Fett, A Practical Man, takes away from that.
Mhm.
And the thing is, Unifying Force should be the end of Boba Fett. We don't need more Boba Fett. But now Boba Fett is like the most important character ever, and he's like 80.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make any sense why he's running around at this point.
And like even with again Legacy of the Force, I think every author has a problem with pet characters, some more than others, but it's no more apparent than Karen Travis in Legacy of the Force because in Betrayal, no Mandos. Alston doesn't even touch it, right? And then all of a sudden, what's the second one again?
Bloodline.
Bloodline. All of a sudden, the Mandos are so important. The Mandos, even
In
even non-Mando characters like Banner's talking. He's like, "I'm 13 now. If I was a Mandalorian, I'd be a man." And it's like, comes
Yeah,
out
that's
of
in the
nowhere.
first like 30 pages. Ben is like, I wish I was a Mandalorian child. They are so awesome.
Next two books, nothing. They just disappear. They're not even there. Not even mentioned. You forget about it. And then all of a sudden Sacrifice comes around and you're just like, oh, that's right. The Mandalorians are a big part of this plot line, even the fact that they haven't been mentioned at all in 2 books. None of their storylines have been, and then it just repeats and repeats. The only one not written by Karen Traviss that even mentions the Mandalorian subplot is Invincible, because it starts off with Jaina still on Mandalore and Murda is in it. That if it wasn't for those 2 things, the Mandalorian subplot would not be a part of any Legacy of the Force outside of Karen Traviss' books.
Yeah, that was just like Denning trying to wrap the story up in the final book, which I've talked about in detail. But yeah, at the beginning with Jaina and Boba together, and I think maybe this is a compliment to Traviss, because Denning's writing of Boba and Jaina in the beginning of Invincible is even worse than what Traviss did. Like, it's really terrible. Like, they talk at each other like, yo, bro, let's go, let's kick some ass. I don't like it. Like, he tries to convince they are friends, but
anyway, enough about Karen Traviss. Honorable mentions.
not enough Traviss.
Wait,
I'm
did
not
we
gonna-
go number 1s?
Well, we need to do honorable mentions before number 1s.
Oh,
then
okay.
we'll
Wait,
go
Alright.
before we go on, because I wasn't here, Dylan, what are the top 10 authors of the public?
Of the public, at 10 is Michael Stackpole, number 9 Aaron Alston, 8 Karen Miller, 7 John Jackson Miller, 6 Stover, 5 James Caan, 4 Timothy Zahn, 3 Donald Glut, and 2 Karen Traviss.
Donald Glut.
Yes,
Well,
the
of the Empire
masses-
Strikes Back novelization
Yeah.
fame and
the
one
masses
Marvel issue.
love the OT novelizations. The only reason Alan Dean Foster isn't on here is because he wrote other things that weren't as well received.
Approaching Storm.
Yeah.
He should have stuck with A New Hope.
So, for honorable mentions,
Jeremy
I
has
really
25 of them, just to let you know.
I got a
well, he'll
pile.
make up for me because I didn't have any written
He's going
down.
to
But
name the rest of the roster. Bond M. McIntyre. Go ahead.
I would have put Tartakovsky on there definitely as an honorable mention. I think that was a good call out. Tom
Yeah,
Veach, and Greg
I
Keyes
should have
as well.
put that in there.
So I've just been writing down names that you guys have been stating. And I'm like, yeah, they should have been on my top 10. They would definitely fit on there for my honorable mentions. Dylan?
So I already talked about how I almost put Karen Traviss just for the good aspects of her books. I talked about how Michael P. Kield McDowell got bumped off my list when I remembered Jendy Tartakovsky. I love the Black Fleet Crisis. I think it's one of the more underrated Bantam stories, and I think it's a very good setup into New Jedi Order because it's a lot darker story for the Bantam era, and I kind of think that's why a lot of people don't like it, is because it's almost too dark for the Bantam era.
Mhm.
And I considered putting Hayden Blackman on here, but I just could not get over the fact that he was responsible for The Force Unleashed. It was too much of a blemish to consider him on the top 10.
But Dylan, he co-wrote Runes of Dantooine. Like,
I
that
know.
must bump him up again.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the cover. Co-writer. Mhm.
Oh, that's funny.
Cool.
Okay.
Who's next?
That would be me. So we already talked about 2 of my honorable mentions, which are Greg Keyes and R.A. Salvatore. First one would be William C. Ditz for the Dark Forces trilogy. Talks about
good.
weird Star Wars. It's a little too wonky to be in the top 10. I'd put him at number 12 if I was doing a top 20. I do love the Dark Forces trilogy, the whole Kyle Katarn thing. I think
good.
he really got the video game novella thing down.
He did the Halo stuff, right?
I think so.
Oh, he did.
Well, he did Escape from Dagu, and that makes me curious if that ever comes out.
But I know he did that Mass Effect novel, which was so bad they made it non-canon immediately.
I don't know which one that is, but that's surprising because he is usually pretty good.
Yeah. And
So-
the first 3 of those were written by Capation, so...
There's a couple of these that only really wrote one novel, or one comic, so I couldn't put them in my top 10 just because of my rules. We talked about Andy Mangels, who wrote Twin Engines of Destruction,
And a certain short story.
which I have not read. I have not
Okay.
read as of the recording of this, so I put him in honorable mentions. Next would be Sean Stewart, who wrote Yoda Dark Rendezvous,
He's a good honorable mention.
which I think is a really solid book, and I'll be reviewing it very soon. Next would be John Whitman for Galaxy of Fear. The reason I put him in honorable mentions is because every Galaxy of Fear book, although they're really good, it's all the same type of writing. And that's what really put him in honorable mentions. But his grip on the EU, I think, is really, really solid. Next would be Kevin Hearn, who wrote Heart of the Jedi.
Wait, what? Kevin Hearn.
I like Kevin Hearn quite a bit.
Thank you for that soundbite. Kevin Hearn is the author of Heir to the Jedi in the Disney canon.
Oh, my bad. Who wrote
Kenneth C. Flint.
Kenneth C. Flint? Fuck you. I wrote him wrong on my.
We have it on audio. We have it recorded. Your favorite author.
And he'll use it, I guarantee you.
I know he's gonna get his revenge on me, making fun of him earlier for not showing up. Fuck me.
I'm glad I showed up.
He makes fun of me for calling him Eric, but yet he calls him Iraq, and I'm thinking, what country are you talking about?
But yeah, anyway. Rebecca Moesta, put her on here because I think that Young Jedi Knights wouldn't be the same without her, and I do like her Junior Jedi Knights books quite a bit. Next, I put Terry Brooks. I think his Phantom Menace novelization is very good. In my opinion, it's my personal favorite of the prequel novelizations, but I think Revenge of the Sith is better written. Next, I got Elaine Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Dark Journey quite a bit, but it wasn't, like I said, it's the only thing I've read of hers, so I put her on
This
here.
really is just the list of every author you didn't mention yet.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
And next, I put Martha Wells of Razor's Edge and James S. A. Cord.
I didn't do that.
All right.
That'd be Matt.
Matt's got your honorable mentions.
I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I should have put Drew Karpyshyn on the list. I should have put Michael Big Cubic Dow. I mentioned him. Sean Stewart, definitely. He was a one and done, but he was excellent. There's someone else y'all mentioned. I said I probably should have had him on the list too, and I can't remember who it was.
There were some great
Hayden
names.
Blackman would definitely be a good one. Go ahead.
Noah?
Yeah.
All right, it's my turn. Okay. Honorable mentions. L. Neil Smith.
Yep.
It's got to be on there, but yeah, he should have written more, for sure. Brian Daly for the Lando trilogy, and he wrote the radio dramas of the OT. Sean Stewart, obviously, Yoda Dark Rendezvous is great.
Mm-hmm.
John Whitman, definitely, Galaxy of Fear, great stuff. Michael Reeves.
John Whitman should have made my list. I think he's great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Michael Reeves almost went into my top 10. Almost. But then I was like, I've got to put Veach just a tiny bit above him.
Noah, let me ask you something. If you could have 5 authors in each one of your number 1s through 10s, you probably would have included them, right?
I would have, yeah. But I was sticking to the rules of how a top 10
I thought there
works.
was a rule about that, but
I can't do the Sophie's Choice. I just can't do
all
it.
right.
But the last one I have at honorable mentions is maybe controversial. Randy Stradley.
No, I put that asshole far away. That's how I feel about Randy Stradley.
But I had to put him up here for Crimson Empire and Dark Times.
Honorable mentions for the masses. I guess I'll just do numbers 20 through 11, if you're curious. Number 20, Jude
I
Watson.
thought Jeremy just did that. Oh, go ahead.
Number 19, Michael Reeves.
Hmm?
Number 18, Terry Bison. Number 17, Jeff Grubb. Number 16, Paul S. Kemp. Number 15, Sean Stewart. Number 13, A.C. Crispin.
Hmm?
Sorry, number 14, A.C. Crispin. Number 13, Ryder Winham. Number 12, Christy Golding. and just missing the top 10, number 11, Maya Catherine Bonhoeffer.
There's some YA authors in there, like Wyndham and Jude Watson. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
All right, Brian.
So we're going to get the least surprising number one out of the way, and that's obviously going to be Michael Stackpole for me. There's obviously a lot of bias in that because he's one of the few authors I've met in person a couple of times.
We have a second person to defend the iJedi now.
Everybody else here, except for maybe Noah, I guess, doesn't really care for iJedi. I like what it attempted to do more than anything else, and that it tried to weave a new story into an existing story. And I thought there would have been a lot of different ways you could do the same thing throughout what we've already seen in the expanded universe, with a different character experiencing events that are written about in other main books throughout the actual timeline, and seeing it from, I guess, another point of view. It doesn't have to be first person. Normally, I don't like first person. I do think it was interesting that he was able to write not only third person but first person, and it was first person in a way that I could actually, withstand the first person writing. So, obviously, though, he's also on there because he's the first author I read out of all of the Star Wars novels was Back to War. So he's going to be up there for a lot of reasons for me.
Okay.
Dylan.
Mine, also no surprise. I've talked about this a lot. I just love Aaron Alston. I don't think he is technically the best author. I think that would either go to Lucino or Stover, but he is the author that I enjoy reading the most. His stories are incredibly entertaining. I keep wanting to read them. He has some of the best highs and lows. I love especially with his take on the X-Wing series. One of the problems I think with Stackpole is that really the only rogues that get his chance to shine are Wedge and Corran. A lot of them, you get some Gavin, you get some Nawara, but like you really don't get like full chapters of like the different rogues and their POVs. Alston gives you that. And like has deep like connections to stories for characters that are going to die. Like I think Ton Fannin is the famous one, but another one I remember just remembering putting together this list is the Bothan Slicer. I think his name was Grinder, who, again, he's dead by the second book, but he actually has, like, again, playing to his comedy, he has, like, several chapters where he's just off doing, like, his own pranks of, oh, I'm a slicer. I can slice into anyone's cockpit, so I can, like, and doing these elaborate pranks, and how they all figured out it was him. And it's, like, it's so much backstory for this character that, like, that you don't know is going to die when you're writing it off, but he writes it, he fleshes them out so much that you're legitimately shocked when they do die, because but you spent so much time with this character building this up. Why did you just kill them off?
Because Alston is cruel and he wants to kill off the people we love. I mean, I love it too. But Tom Fannin, the letter that Face gets afterwards. I mean, come on. We know we're already sad. No, I want to play with your emotions more with the knife.
And
he was good at that, playing with emotions on the humor side and on the tragedy side.
Yeah.
And again, a bit of spoilers, because I know Brian hasn't read it, but again, I do not like when characters don't stay dead, and I appreciate that despite teasing it in Mercy Kill, Ton Fannin stayed dead.
Yeah.
I love him as a character.
Yeah, I agree.
Good pick.
Jeremy?
Okay, it's obvious who my number one is. It's Karen Miller.
Nice. Of Wild Space fame, Matt's favorite novel.
It's okay. No, it's actually James Lucino. And if you watch my channel, you know that. He is he balances the EU nods with approachability perfectly. It's a perfect mix. We talked a lot about Darth Plagueis, but I want to talk about what was his Agents of Chaos, like the best duology. in New Jedi Order. That's your start. That's where you're going to start from. Incredible. Cloak of Deception. We did shit on that a little bit. It's not his best book, but I take it over his new canon stuff, which I also don't think is bad. Cloak of Deception, I'll tell you what, is better when you read Darth Plagueis.
I
You
can
get
see
more
how
out
that
of
might be.
Cloak of Deception after reading Darth Plagueis. Millennium Falcon. Who would have thought telling the history of the Millennium Falcon would be interesting?
Mhm.
And that was Lucino writing in an era he didn't like, and he still gave it like 100%.
Yes. His Tarkin novel, I think, was pretty solid for being a new canon book. It references Darth Plagueis, the novel, quite a bit. His lead into Rogue One, Catalyst, I think was really solid. Is it Labyrinth of Evil? No. But he also wrote Labyrinth of Evil, which we went in depth about on here. The ultimate how to get into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it set the standard for movie tie-in novels going forward. Not just in Star Wars, but in general. You'll see the must-read book before you see blah, blah, blah movie all the time. I think they had one for Warcraft. They had one for The Batman. And you wouldn't get that, in my opinion, if it wasn't for Labyrinth of Evil and how well Labyrinth of Evil did.
That's a fair point.
Agents of Chaos. I don't think a lot of people know this. So Agents of Chaos, when New Jedi Order was being made, was actually supposed to be a single novel. And then Michael Stackwell was supposed to write the Dark Tide trilogy. But when the
Right.
Dark Tide trilogy became the Dark Tide duology, because Stackwell didn't want to do their edits and like have a 3-part story, he shortened it to 2 parts. They made that third novel. They gave that to Lucino and said, again, because Stackwell was still at the time writing Dark Tide Onslaught. So like they told Lucino, hey, in 2 books, your book you're planning, you've got to make that 2 books, not 1 book. And he did it in such a way that you don't even know that's like, it doesn't feel like a single story that was stretched out. It feels like it was meant to be a duology, like on short notice. Essentially, he filled in. I don't think a lot of people know that story, and it really raised my respect for Lucino again when I found out about it years later.
Okay. Anyway, that's what I have to say about that.
You don't have any more offers on number 1?
No,
I mean,
That's disappointing.
the only one he hasn't named at this time is Walter John Williams. So I'm just waiting for him to say something.
I can't remember Destiny's Way.
Okay. Anyway, my
I just
number
remember he's
1
talking
is
about
Walter
Rogue One.
John Williams. Thought he did a great job. It's Kevin Janderson. Everyone knows. that.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
Noah, what's yours?
Okay. Oh, you already want my number 1. Okay, it's also James Lucino, obviously. I agree with everything Jeremy said. He was the head behind New Jedi Order, and he wrote the greatest ending that Star Wars will ever get, which is the unifying force.
Exactly.
That's
Also, to jump into stuff he wrote outside of Star Wars, he is the quintessential Indiana Jones historian. He tied all of that together.
Yeah, he wrote something similar to like the new essential chronology, but for Indiana Jones.
Mhm. And he also wrote the only adult young Indiana Jones novel, which I have not read. But he also wrote a novelization to The Shadow that I think was really good. I think it's a shame that he never wrote a novelization for Star Wars.
Yeah, I think if anyone could have done Revenge of the Sith other than Stover, it probably would have been Lucino.
Yes, which I don't. I was thinking of the TCW novelization.
I think the only reason
Would have been better if Lucino wrote it.
I think the only reason it was Stover and not Lucino because Lucino was already writing at the time the prequel and like sequel novel to Revenge of the Sith. So they're like,
Right.
you can't write all 3. We got to give this to someone else.
Well, we got to talk about Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, the book that doesn't have a lot of Darth Vader, but is still incredibly engaging.
That's fine. Count Dooku is on the cover of Cess's Deception. He's not even in the book.
I know.
But Dark Lord, it was so good. It's one of like 3 Star Wars books we got like German audio dramas for, with like the original voice actors. So that's nice.
Cessna's Deception or Planet of Twilight?
Cestus Deception.
Cestus.
Yeah, I would pick that too. I just want to throw it by you.
Good try.
It's the only
Right.
Kit Fisto story where he's like a big character.
Yeah.
and nothing happens. But yeah, I agree. It's better than Planet Twilight. Go ahead.
It has a better clone romance.
It does. It is the first time we got that. So not only is Karen Travis awful with that, she's a hack. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right,
here
good deal.
goes. So the masses, Dylan.
Well, no,
The
Matt
masses-
hasn't said it's number one.
Oh, Matt did. It's
I did. It's
Anderson.
Kevin Jansen. Everyone knows that.
Well, I mean, I want you to explain why. I want you to explain
why?
why.
I mean, I'm the only person here that loves the Jedi Academy trilogy. We've talked about Young
I
Jedi
love
Knight
Jedi
earlier. You talked about, I think Darksaber is great. I think universally a lot of people love Darksaber. But and then of course he just did so much more. I just love him.
But you dislike his best work, which is Tales of the Jedi Redemption.
It's not bad. I just figured the original way it ended was fine. After reading it again, I still like Redemption. I think it's fine, but I think I prefer the first ending to Tales of the Jedi. That's all.
The masses
I
think the
wanted to see.
best.
I wanted to see more of Vima and Ulick studying. You know, him teaching her the Force. And I understand in the comic book you don't have much time to do things, but I wish it would have been a little bit more fleshed out. But
Isn't it sad? Like we almost got that Mandorla novel, but they didn't bring Anderson back to write it. That's me saying like I would have been fine with a Kevin Anderson novel if they gave him the Mandorla plot about Nomi and Vima shortly before KOTOR.
I think it'd been great.
Who was supposed to write that?
Some video game author. His name was like Alex Irvine.
There
At
you
least it
go.
wasn't Sean Williams.
Drew Karpyshyn is the masses pick for best author.
Figured.
Okay.
4.21 stars out of 5 and 87,043.
Okay.
Makes sense. He does have good books.
Good deal.
Interesting.
Well done.
That was our top 100 list.
Is this the longest?
Your top 100.
Yeah.
Specifically you.
Is this our longest Legends podcast ever?
This is
Wow.
Jeremy's
No,
top
I'll
100
tell you what.
with 10
If he'd have stuck
suggestions
with
from
the
everybody
top
else.
10, we'd have been done an hour and a half ago.
I'll tell you what, this is the longest it's been that I was sober for. We once did a New Year's stream where I fell during part of it and hit my
I
head
remember
on the
you fell up the
skateboard.
stairs.
Oh, that was a different one.
I'm
was
going to
the-
go old school with you, Jeremy. Did you fall asleep next to your laptop with your hand on the screen?
I'm not a certain Tristan character. I almost invited him on here.
I would love to see Tristan and
Me too.
Edward again.
Me too.
The story is I came in on a Skype because they were to see if they were still talking, and they were both sleeping in front of their screen. And they refused to get off it. They just went to sleep together next to each other on Skype. And I joked that they had their hands touching on the screen.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Remember when
what the heck is this Captain
Remember-
Kangaroo crap? What are y'all doing? Wake up! And Edward's like, and I mean, they're right up to it. Tristan's.
Wow.
They're
They
sleeping
were
together
kids. They
over
were just
Skype.
kids at the time too.
I've never seen true love like that over Skype, but you know, I don't know if that relationship's still going on today.
Oh god. The falling out of that was just the worst.
which
They
one?
they made up the making up was just as good as the breaking up. Come on now, they made up a lot.
Yeah, they broke up a lot.
They
It was
broke
that-
up a lot too.
You obviously haven't heard of Chile.
bringing the old ones back. Remember
Bring
when
the old
Josie
ones.
would call into those would join those Skype calls from the Burger King parking lot because she didn't have Wi-Fi at home?
Yeah, she didn't have Wi-Fi. She had to call from Burger King,
Yeah, oh
and
my
she had to
God.
order. She was inside Burger King, but they made her order something, and she couldn't afford anything. She went in the parking lot.
Yep.
Great time.
And she'd be
And then
there
she-
until some really late time at night, and we'd all
Yeah,
be
she'd
like,
be there like.
"Are
2
you
in the morning.
safe?"
Those were the times. This is before Noah. Before Noah knew.
Yeah.
Those were the wild times.
Remember John Sadler? Remember Dylan's Alias?
Well, yeah. John Sadler's here.
I was gonna say, what do you mean remember him?
Can you look at the camera, please, Mr. Sadler?
I'm looking at my
Oh
notes.
man, we're going old school.
But yeah. Well, let's start. Brian, what are you reading?
Currently reading. I'm actually reading something in my own writing. That I'm kind of going through and proofreading. But outside of that, I'm just waiting for a bunch of light novels to come out. I've been reading a lot of those as they've been coming out. And then Star Wars wise, I think I am getting close to starting Destiny's Way again. So very, very much near the end of that.
Okay. Dylan. John.
I recently finished the Lando trilogy. I think you guys oversold it. I didn't hate it, but it was just kind of meh. I thought they got progressively better, but they just felt dated. It's generally an immersion breaking when things that don't have a Star Wars name, things that have a Star Wars name, get called by their real world name in a novel. And I know why that happened, because the Star Wars names didn't exist at the time that O'Neill Smith wrote that. But it is still, so it's not his fault, but it is still a problem I have with the novels. And I'm now on to Shadow Games. I'm like 5 or 6 chapters into that.
Okay. Noah.
Is it good?
Shadow Games so far. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, and look out, because there's a big contradiction in there, which Maya Catherine Bonhoff, the public's #2 favorite author, claimed, oh, it's not a continuity error, you read that wrong. Which is bullshit.
What?
Look, the book mentions Lando already owning Cloud City.
Oh.
And the Lady Luck, and that's completely off by like 2 years.
That's a problem.
Noah, what are you reading?
I'm reading my own book, The Ultimate Chronology. I'm at the Rebellion era. I just reached New Hope.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, I have to go into like the real big galactic civil war, which is
a lot. But if you got through the Clone Wars, you can get through this.
Yeah, I mean, Clone Wars, I left out most of TCW.
That's probably a wise decision.
Yeah. Dark Times was more confusing, honestly, because every story takes place at the same time. Because they weren't allowed to like spread it out because of the Underworld TV show. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm also reading my own book, just like everyone. No, I'm kidding. I don't have anything to read. I am reading Jedi Bounty.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'm almost done, but yeah. So like I told you, I think I'm liking it better than the first story arc.
Okay.
It's really
the
good.
prophetic Diversity Alliance story.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, I like how on the cover of the books, the main villain is literally Hitler. Did you notice that?
Yeah. With the flags behind it and everything. Yeah.
That's good.
Remember when Bill was stuck on Kenobi's blade for like 5 episodes back when we would record them once a month?
Years. It took him like 2 years to read that book.
2 years. It took. Remember when it took Bill like 2 years to read the last 30 pages of Kenobi's blade? We bullied him about it so much he just read it live on the podcast one time.
I kind of remember that. I don't. But okay. You guys know me. I'm always in the middle of a couple of things. I'm in the middle of Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis comic book tie-in, which feels like the Shadows of the Empire equivalent for Indiana Jones. It was their big multimedia project. I'm also in the middle. I just read We Don't Do Weddings from Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina. And
right?
Yes. And I'm halfway through Mark of the Crown by Jude Watson. And I am avoiding Hard Merchandise by K.W. Jeter until someone makes a fan audiobook of it, because I can't sit and read it. I can't. That's the thing. It's the weirdest thing. I found this YouTube channel named Fulcrum Entertainment, and he did unabridged audiobooks for Mandalorian Armor and Slave Ship. And it looks like he has no desire to read hard merchandise, because he just did he did a 10-part audiobook of Allegiance, and now just jumped into Darth Plagueis. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're moving on to a good book now. You're not going back to something bad that I don't have to actually read. I can listen to it at work. So I'm a little disappointed there, but I'll be okay.
Oh, quick question. I just thought of this. 2 points. First, you forgot one of the best authors, Matthew Geeks Addict's favorite author, Greg Bear of Rogue Planet fame. But also, did anyone mention Timothy Zahn on his top 10 authors list?
I didn't even put him as an honorable mention. I don't
Someone
think.
did.
Yeah, I did.
Brian did. Okay. So out of 5 people, only one put Timothy Zahn in the top 10.
Well, the
best new
masses
authors.
haven't.
I
The
could have been
masses
proud
have
to
him at
put him
number
in the
4.
top 10. Brian made a good case.
Yeah, I just his track record's too bad for me.
Yeah, it's like half good, half bad. Like once he gets away from post-Endor stuff, it just all went down.
Well, Outbound Flight is his best book.
Uh,
It's that Scoundrels is like the worst thing.
Oh, I think Allegiance is worse. And then his new canon stuff, I stopped after Thrawn Double Vision, which was his second book.
Oh, you
Which-
didn't read Thrawn Treason, where he tries to tie in the first book, but then they have to put the stupid Rebels tie-in stuff in, and he didn't want to put it in, so it's in an epilogue, and the Palpatine isn't acting like Palpatine.
I may actually read it just to review it, because I did the previous 2, but oh no.
Also, he makes his home not Vong species in it.
Oh, the discount Vagari from Outbound
Ye-
Flight.
Yeah, and they're terrible. He comes up with a female version of Thrawn named Al-Alarmi or whatever. Salami, I'm not sure what she's called.
I think she's in Outbound Flight, but as like a minor side character.
But
But
she's
doesn't he have like the discount Pelion, Eli Vento? He has like a romance with Chiz ladies?
Oh, and Pelion shows up.
Oh no.
Yeah, Pelion's in there for 2 seconds because Pelion's in Rebels.
Also for 2 seconds. But yeah,
Yes.
and have you seen the actor they casted for Pelion?
No.
He looks like Pelion. I think he's even British, so that's good, but I don't
even know who
honestly
they
touch
cast for Thrawn. All I know is they
the voice actor, I think.
all I know is that Hera's been cast as Ewan McGregor's new wife. You know, the one that he traded his old wife for. And suddenly she's now a Star Wars character and is horribly miscast.
Yeah, great. But the Thrawn actor is the voice actor from Rebels, something Mikkelsen. I think Matt Mikkelsen's brother or something. And he looks like a blue-faced Elon Musk.
I don't know. Who was it? Didn't everyone want Benedict Cumberbatch, or is Matt called him Benedict Cumberbutt to be Thrawn?
Everyone did.
I don't know. I think that's better.
I wanted Gilbert Godfrey, but he's dead.
Again,
I wanted Gary Busey.
Oh, that's great. You got me.
since
That's
Noah
better.
wasn't here for this, there are, according to the masses,
Hmm.
there are 146 Star Wars books that are worse than Choices of One.
Wow.
What is Cess Deception considered the worst? Is
Yeah, what is
Cestus-
considered the worst book by the masses?
I think it's Cestus Deception.
The worst book, according to the masses, is Barbara Hambly's Planet of Twilight. No, I'm not making that up.
Yes.
Wow.
Hold on. I have it on the screen.
Wow.
That's
of
amazing.
course. Well, apparently, Matt, there was a few more than 10 you listed.
Why is it not showing? Hold on. I got to figure out which of. I have 3 screens now, and I got to figure out which one's which.
Yeah. On that note, I will have to bow out.
Okay.
All right.
But thank you for having me.
It was great to have you back. It was like old times again.
Yes, it was. It was a lot of fun. Noah, thanks for waking up.
Yeah, my pleasure waking
Oh, wait,
up in
what?
time.
It's got the
You
wrong one.
Matt,
Hold on.
I can't just have Matt Wilkins be my replacement just because I was asleep.
Oh, that's exactly what they couldn't get you. And so they said, Matt, would you sub in? I said, absolutely. I can go with the angry German.
Channel that inner rage.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
See you, Matt.
See ya, dude.
Why is it? Okay.
I don't know what are you trying to? Are you putting porn on the screen?
I'm trying to.
At this point, people will take questions if anyone has some questions. I'm gonna scroll through the chat. Sorry, we haven't been really.
We only have Papa Wedge left in the chat, so yeah, go for it.
Well, we got 6 people watching. I'm just scrolling through questions here. Oh, thank you, Tuscan Reader. Did I miss an appearance of Waru? No, we didn't actually really talk about that. Also from Tuscan Reader, Disney calls themselves the Diversity Alliance now. Don't they / them? Thank you.
I'd believe it.
Yeah. Although they took Willow off, you missed that. We talked about Dial of Dementia. And how it got back.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped. My most anticipated movie of all time, maybe. For the time traveling Nazi plot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
The bottom 3 are Galaxy's Ruins of Dantooine, Crystal Star, Planet of Twilight.
Crystal Star does not belong among those two.
I'll tell you what, Crystal Star does not deserve to be in the top 10 worst EU books.
Thank you.
They're so much worse.
Top 10 worst? Hold on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
To be
7.
fair, you're only looking at the adult novels, right?
Yes. If the young adult novels were on here, they should all be higher. Top 10, bottom 10 adult novels. Dark Forces Jedi Knight at number 10 worst, I guess. Flame Wind of Ocean is 9. Dark Forces Rebel Agent 8. Splinter the Mind's Eye 7. Star Cave of Thon Valku 6. Children of the Jedi 5. Mind Harp at 4. Galaxy's Ruins of Dantooine 3. Crystal Star 2. Planet of Twilight number 1.
Okay, fuck the masses for having the Lando trilogy on there. Like, seriously. Sieging Gambit is not on there. Like,
that's the worst thing that ever came out in the EU. I swear it up and down. It's the worst thing.
You don't want to know where the Gambit duology is.
Is it in the top 30? Because you already gave us the top 20. Oh no, this was The Office. Is it in the top 10?
Clone Wars Gambit Stealth is number 41.
Oh.
Where is Siege?
Siege, the second one, also known as Poor Man's Star Wars
Wild
Under
Space
the Dome.
on the Karen Miller topic is 53. It's better than 2/3 of the EU approximately.
All right. Dylan, you would know this. Which one of my Star Wars reviews, because you took this audio clip, did I say was a which book did I say was a litter box full of used tampons?
The Queen's book that Matthew sent you.
Oh, I
remember that.
Reviewed that.
I remember the review. You were like, I would rather have a litter box full of tampons. Thank you, Matthew, for sending me this.
From this asshole right here.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, because I couldn't remember what I said because I told my dad's now reading a bunch of EU, and I told them that I thought that I had said Fatal Alliance was a litter box full of tampons.
Siege is 59.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't remember, because I reviewed Queen's Gambit, Alphabet Squadron, the Gambit Duology. No, I didn't review those at that time. What did I review that? Because this was when I lost my driver's license. I lost my driver's license.
Oh, you reviewed Efron Alliances, I think.
Yes, because I was listening to Star Wars audiobooks while I walked to work, and I had an hour walk to work each direction. It was awful. It was the dead of summer. But I passed out behind the wheel of my car and almost got in a car accident. I ended up in the hospital. And I lost my driver's license. They reported me to the DMV while I was like kind of semi-conscious. But anxiety is a bitch, everyone. It took it took 2 months to get my driver's license back. It was such a pain in the ass. And I had to walk in the dead of summer. And I had to move without having a driver's license. It was a pain. I had to move twice without having a driver's license. So I had to move in with my parents, and then I had to move back out like a month later. But yeah, it was terrible. But I got through Queen's Shadow, or the first one of those Padme books. I got through Alphabet Squadron because I remember walking over the overpass and being like, "This is the worst thing I have ever read." I read Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void during that, which was the best thing I was reading at the time.
Ugh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think of what else I listened to.
I remember you reviewed Revan and Deceived.
Oh yeah, I went through all the Old Republic books except for Annihilation. I hit Annihilation when I had moved. So,
Yeah, that's also when you reviewed the Ahsoka novel.
oh god, and I had read that way before that, and that was a review I filmed 8 times. Everyone, sometimes you just when something's so bad, like you can't quite express how you feel, and you're editing the video, and you're like, no, I got to reshoot this whole thing. I reviewed Ahsoka 8 times. I reviewed A New Dawn at least 4 times. I reviewed I've reviewed a few things. I just did this the other day. I went through and I'm like, ooh, I was reviewing Slave Ship, and I was going to edit The Mandalorian Armor, and I watched both those reviews. I'm like, I have to reshoot these. I'm not getting my point across. Sometimes it takes a few times to get your point across. And I don't want to release crap to you guys. That's why we have the Legends podcast for the garbage, you know?
Okay. This is I love looking at this list because every time I find something new. This is number 31 to 36. Okay, you're not ready for this. Number 31, New Jedi Order Traitor. 32, Spectre of the Past. 33, Allegiance. 34, The Last Jedi. 35, iJedi. 36, 2 spots ahead of the Unifying Force, Survivor's Quest.
All right. It's clear the masses don't know what they're talking about.
Nope. Is this based on reviews or units sold?
Reviews. User reviews from Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Anapi, and Library Thing.
They
Averaged
put
out.
Allegiance over Traitor.
No. Sorry. Allegiance is 2 spots behind Traitor,
Oh, okay.
That's not that great still.
but is 5 spots ahead of the Unifying Force.
I just don't get that.
It's so bad.
We gotta catch
Allegiance
up with
is
the
better. The masses like Allegiance more than iJedi. The Last Jedi by 1 spot.
It's just so weird. Well, gents, I think I'm going to get going.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it here.
Can we just
Because,
quickly catch up
I
with the comments? There's some gold in here.
Sure.
Okay. What would you like to start?
I'd rather do the comments than listen to this painful list of public opinion.
Matt's a hater. Thank you. I'm going through all Papa wedges here. So
Okay.
Cool. Yep.
That's what we all do.
They're awesome. They're great entertainment.
next is
I'm not sure I can agree to that.
I agree with that. And yeah, Pelion is in the new show. Oh god. Oh, and now we get to the juicy stuff. Down there.
Oh yeah. Hey, everyone. I like John the Jedi Into the Void, and no one else seems to. So
I like it.
You're
Two
not
of
in the
us-
minority, Michael. Scoundrels is number 61.
Shut the fuck up. Anyway.
Please stop him with his list. It hurts.
What to get scanned on?
Oh yeah, the it has the Force Awakens Millennium Falcon on the Legends cover.
Oh.
That's like a Del Rey level of mistake.
How is
This-
Labyrinth of Evil 76?
Can you go through the comments faster?
Siege and Gambit, classic.
Yeah, he
Oh.
said sieging. No. He said stealth and
Stealth and
Gambit this time.
Gambit.
He didn't say siege and Gambit.
He did say Siege and Gambit at a different point in the video. The Lando trilogy is a tough read. I disagree completely. I agree with this. Chainsmoker Lando is the best.
It is
The
great.
most average by the masses EU novel is a tie between The New Jedi Order, Enemy Lines, Rebel Dream, and Maul's Shadowhunter. That is what's considered average.
Wow. Dawn of the Jedi, right?
Thank you.
That is Zahn's worst book that I have read. I mean, he has his New Thrawn trilogy and stuff, so we shall see. But that is rough.
I like how nowadays when you say I read the Thrawn trilogy, the other person can respond which one. There's 3 of them.
Yeah,
They're
four
two-
technically, because the German, the fucking Hand of Thrawn duology is now a trilogy here.
Yeah, because the 3rd book's called The Admiral's Wrath. It's just,
Yeah, they just split it in the middle because it would have been 800 pages.
is that the
So-
longest EU book?
No, the longest EU book. Dylan, you
Yeah.
said which one it was. Wasn't it one of the New Jedi Order books?
Isn't it
I thought it was Unifying Force.
Was
Yeah,
it Unifying Force?
Oh, okay.
technically, by page count and paperback, the longest is Star by Star, but that's only because they put Recovery in the paperback, which
That's
is
right.
like 90 pages. I remember on Facebook someone was like reading New Jedi Order, and they didn't know Recovery was like a short story, so they like were complaining about how the prologue made no sense and didn't have anything to do with the rest of the story because they just read it cover to cover.
Do you guys remember in the paperback of 000 they have a short story with the commandos that happens before 000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the Karen Travis, like they do that. 000 and True Colors both have this issue where there's a short story that happens before each of the books, but it's at like the beginning. It's like the end of the book, right? So like, if you're reading cover to cover, and because the books, right? The books like True Colors mentions the short story and like references the short story that is at the end of True Colors, just like 000 does the same exact thing, but they're at the end. So if you're reading cover to cover, you get them out of order. Instead of putting the short story that was in 000 at the end of Hard Contact, which would make sense because then when you're reading cover to cover, it'd be chronological, and then the 000 short story at the end. Sorry, and then the True Colors short story at the end of 000. No, they reverse it.
They have the same with Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void. What was the short story? Eruption is also at the
Eruption.
end.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Okay.
Thrawn Alliance's worst thing ever. Oh, it's similar to the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy with how it's told with the different timelines at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's worse. It's a million times worse.
Yes, it is. But anyway, oh god, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. I don't remember.
You guys
Oh.
want to talk about my Rebellion era chronology, the progress? I
Sure.
finished writing about Operation Skyhook yesterday. All the times the rebels stole the Death Star plans. It's a fucking mess. We needed a novel to smooth it out.
Yeah.
And something exciting I should have told Matt while he was still on here. I just got the summaries of the Hungarian Han Solo novels.
Oh yeah.
So I
would
know what
definitely want
happens
to know
in them.
about that.
So I know what happens in them now because the lead translator was friendly enough to give me the summaries for my chronology.
Awesome.
When's the next one coming out? Do you know that?
The prequel era one, which is volume 2, is already uploaded on Amazon, but I haven't published it yet. I'm waiting for my German guy to finish the PDF of the Old Republic one.
Okay.
And if he has the time, like, I mean, the month is almost over. So next month, the first one should come out like pretty soon, I hope. If
So
not,
you're
I'm just going to release volume 2 first.
So are you going to put out the Old Republic one just with the state of the Switch War as it is right now? You're not going to wait till it's done?
No, I'm not. That could. Who knows how long it takes till SWOTO is done? I just have one chapter saying, and then the Sith Empire was defeated or whatever. Who cares?
Let me-
exactly right. That too.
I want to throw this in here for the last minute thought. Is SWOTOR even canon?
It shouldn't
Canon?
be.
Legend?
It shouldn't be, but it is.
Because I'd argue in 2008 it was hard to tell what was canon and what wasn't. As I argue, Force Unleashed shouldn't be canon.
It is because of how it references what it references, at least early on. The more recent stuff, it gets a little more gray, though, because they're doing other things with it, which I'm like, I don't know if that fits so
They're doing
well.
what Fantasy Flight did and are slowly incorporating canon stuff into it.
Right. So, yes and no, I guess is the right answer.
Because TCW should not be canon, period.
Yeah, I left that one out, thank God. But oh yeah, Papa Wedge, go on, check his comment. That's also true. He promised he would fact check the Old Republic era for me. Yeah, still have to do that. Yeah, dead end.
Yeah, there's really not a lot they're doing with the story, and that's another
Mhm.
reason why it kind of feels like it's just done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But anyway,
Somehow the Sith Empire fell. I guess.
Somehow Darth Malgus returned.
Yes.
and somehow the Brotherhood of Darkness became a thing.
Mhm.
There you
Oh,
go.
this reminds me. You know how I wrote it, because where they are currently at, exactly 100 years later, we get the Force Unleashed backstory for 2 Sith Lords. One of which is like the Utapau guy that you fight in the Wii version, and it's like, I guess they must have been like, the Sith Empire must be gone by this point, because this guy became like the first Darth in a while.
Hmm. But there's dark because Knight Errant still takes place between whenever the end of Switch War is and like Bane trilogy. So it like Bane
Oh
trilogy.
yeah,
has
we
to
got the
end.
return with Darth Ruin, a Jedi who became Darth Ruin, and he creates a new Sith Order, and that's the beginning of the new Sith Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's messy.
Let's call it there. 3 hours in. 3 hours.
3
6
hours.
minutes. All right. Thank you all for sticking with us this long. Thank you. Thank you. It was good.
Thank God I woke
Good
up.
find, guys.
We've got a few more ideas in the pipeline here, so we won't be gone for a long time again. So anyway, have a good one.